since we have now developed this amazing shipping material and protection material, which is also in stone paper and super eco-friendly, then we can use that for all our products. So we can have a good brand experience. We can get efficiency in terms of we can buy high volumes, but we can also reuse different type of like envelopes or cartoons or something to different kinds of product lines without having to compromise. And I think that's what a good company should stand for.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name's Rick Nuske and I'm your host. I have a wonderful role. I keep saying it. My next guest, Anders Ankarlid. It is very late where you are. How are you, Anders? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I'm very well, thank you. Hope you are good as well.
Yes, look, I know it's very late there and I'm very conscious of that. You often have long days?
Yeah, I have. I think we're on the worst place actually. So we have our sourcing team in Hong Kong, and then have a lot of suppliers in the US. So usually it's quite long days. So it's almost midnight now for me, but I'm used to it. So it's no problem. Good to be joining.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Look, I know I've had a look at your bio and it's exceptional. You've got some very pertinent points there. But for everybody who's on the call with us today, we're going to be talking about some of the things that we do in business and how to steer goals and accountability and all those things. But before we jump into the meat of the call, Anders, I'd love for you to share with the My Future Business audience a bit about your background and what you love doing when you're not working.
Yeah, sure. So my background, first of all, I'm 35. I have 3 kids. My background is basically doing my own companies. So at the age of 18 or 19, after school, I was super tired. I did one semester in college, and then I dropped out and decided to explore the world. And then just I had after that run different type of e-commerce companies for 10 years. I sold them 2012 to VC Capital, and then 6 years at sort of a management consultant firm and work with different sectors, different varieties of boards, different type of ownerships and so on. And then last summer, 2018, then was super hot in Sweden. I don't know about the rest of the world, but in Europe for that matter, and in Sweden, it was the hottest since at least 100 years.
Wow.
And I got a bit stressed about actually the climate, what type of world my kids had to grow up in. So I decided to start a new company, which is this company I'm running now, which is named A Good Company, to try to do some good in the world for the e-commerce industry and for consumers all across the world, basically.
Yeah,
So that's me, and what I'm doing not working, to just answer on that question as well.
I guess you don't have much time when you're not working, is there?
Yeah, but you always have to find time to stay relaxed, right? So I try to do mindfulness. I do that every evening to fall asleep after long days.
Yeah.
And I try to be a marathoner as well. So I will do my first 2 this year. So I hate running, so therefore I decided to jump into that.
Isn't that
Yeah.
funny? Isn't that funny? If you take on something that you know you're not good at or you hate, you find that when you do it, you actually quite enjoy it, don't you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I got it for my last birthday. I got as a present from my wife to go to New York and run the marathon. And
Oh,
I
wow.
think I got it just to both to get a couple of days off and without kids and having a good time, but also to try something new. But now I enjoy it. I run 3 or 4 times a week. I feel very, very relaxed. It's nice to, you can run, Sweden has hard winters, but if you're just well equipped, you can run all year round. It's no problem.
Yeah, you definitely have a different lifestyle over there. I'd love to circle back on this idea that you have for your business, but again, coming back to the topics that we're going to cover off,
Yeah, sure.
we in Australia are also going through an exceptional heat spell, which is unusual for our time of year. Yes, we are still in sort of summer, but we've had 40s, 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 37, 37, and I don't recall a time where we've ever experienced such a prolonged exposure to this higher temperature. Now, your idea for a business, um, how did that? What triggered that idea?
I think actually coming down to something personal then is that I feel like when I'm getting older, I think that all of us have different type of capabilities, and I think one of my capabilities is to run businesses.
Yep,
And I would have a sense of like when my kids ask me if everything keep going south as it is right now in terms of the climate,
yep,
at least I want to be able to look them in the eyes and say, I did something. Perhaps it wasn't enough. Perhaps it wasn't not even close to be enough, but at least I tried during my best age to do something.
yeah,
Um, and I think changes actually, all type of changes. This was the root cause doing this. I thought about when we in Sweden, that was in the 1920s, when we uh, gave women right to vote. We were one of the first countries doing so.
hmm,
That's starting from a movement from people. It wasn't like politicians fixing things. And I think the same with a lot of change that's coming. It starts from that people are actually doing things, and when other people can join them and see that this is not, it's not scary, it's not complicated, it's just working out. Then I feel like politicians, of course, they're always afraid of getting not elected,
yeah.
so they're risk avert. But when they see that there's a big crowd really caring for these matters and these topics, I think that it will hopefully start a change. But I think if someone to blame why I'm doing this, that will be or say thank you to, that will be my kids, basically.
Yeah.
That's how personal it is for me.
No, that's wonderful, and it's a wonderful journey that you're on. It's very much something that we all need to collectively do. I'm thinking at the moment about this saying that I once heard, Anders, which is small hinges swing big doors. So it's
Yeah.
I think and also the compound component to all of this is that one becomes two, becomes four, becomes eight. And then the more push we get behind these very, very important things for our children. We were talking about our children before the call. That's what we should all be focusing on.
Yeah, and I think after you get kids, I can only go to how I was before, but I was like a pure ego. I was focusing on myself and my habits and my demands and my behaviors and so on. But that has to shift, and I think coming up to being an adult and a grown person to be like a role model for them, you have to take responsibility. It's not enough just to go to work and do your best there. You have to do something greater if you have the possibilities. If you're sick and if you don't have the power, that's of course
Mm-hmm.
all right as well. But if you have the capabilities and you have the drive to do something, I think that all of us should spend that time into something that really could matter for our kids.
Yes.
It could be anything. It could be creative work. It could be play the piano, or it could be what I'm good at, running companies.
Yep, yep.
So
I speak with a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners like yourself, Anders, and there is a common theme here. You see that when people like yourself get to a position where they can influence change, more often than not, this is a very similar conversation. So we have the power within us. We just need a collective push to make this happen, don't we?
yeah, I totally agree. I think it makes sense. I think that all of us have a lot more internal power, if you like, or a lot more drive. That's the reason why we can stay up now. It's 10 minutes after midnight, and it's pitch black outside. But if you're doing something you enjoying, and if you're doing something for a greater cause, which is also connected to you. I think that people are more value driven than they are aware of. But when they realize that and they're turning into to using that as a strength, I think that's something. If you compare with like traditional corporates just running, I don't know, matrix organizations
Mm-hmm.
with KPIs all over, I think that values that can underpin everything you do, that beats them all day long.
Yeah, look,
Hopefully,
this un-
hopefully at least.
this underpins the whole reason that I love being the host of the My Future Business show just so much.
Yeah,
I'm looking at your bio over here and I want to make mention of something you've said. A good company is about changing people's mind from mindless consumption into conscious decisions. Now, this is a really good segue from what we've just spoken about. Could you talk a little bit more about, what you're doing to get them away from that idea of mindless consumption?
yeah, sure. I think a lot of us, and I can use myself as an example. I had bought a lot of things online, and I think of all of us have. Even
Yes.
my mother, she's nearly turning 70 soon, but she buys things online, and I think all of us do, and we will more and more. But we buy both. We like to make a deal, so we buy things on sales, and I think at least when I'm buying like clothes and things, I'm happy while I'm buying. But when I get the things, I realize that, okay, this is covered in plastic. It's
Yes.
sent in a too big of cartoon. The tape smells really fussy. Um, and I think we're doing a lot of mindless consumption, basically. Either things we don't need, so better pay some extra dollars on something that's more sustainable, but I also think that coming into the conscious decisions, I think that we need to, it's not enough just to say this product is better than the other one. People either can't afford buying that product or they can't, or they can, but they don't have the time to really dig into all of the details. Where is it manufactured? How was it sent from that plant to that production site into a fulfillment center? How does the workers have it at the fulfillment center? How do they package the product? How do they send the product? How does the return works and so
Mm-hmm.
on? And I think if you can do that product by product, and we have spent 6 months just developing our shipping material, that's the time it takes to do something uh, completely well. And we
Yep.
have the same time spare with our first product line we are launching now. And we will do it. So we are trying to shift. I think you have to do it easy with everyday products and don't compromise between like quality and sustainability. So we're trying to fix things one product at a time. And it's all right if it takes 2 months to fix it.
Yep.
That's perfectly okay. Or if it takes 6 months, but as long as you can, uh, from coming back to that thing with the kids, you can give it to them, and you will be satisfied that it's not, you haven't taken any shortcut. You don't put the product into a PP bag, which is like a really bad petroleum-based
Yep.
bag, just because it's cheap and it's there. You have to fix another way to sort that out.
Yeah.
So that's about the conscious decision. And I feel like if people start buying those type of products and those type of companies, that doesn't have to be our company. I think that can change and shift how people see into the area of consumption, which of course have to change dramatically. We have to buy less.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
there is
yeah,
in Australia we have Audi supermarket chains and Woolworths and Coles and all of these big brands. They are now starting to
yeah,
ban the use and sale of plastic bags.
which is good,
Yeah.
which is super good. And I don't, do you do recycling?
Absolutely, yes. We have dedicated
Yeah,
bins on our streets, and everybody, for the most part, does the right thing. But again, that comes back down to the individual, doesn't it?
yeah, it does. And I think that in all aspects of life, you have to help people with doing simple choices. If you have a family aside you, anyone else, you have limited time. You can't spend hours just figuring out things, or just perhaps a small population are willing to spend that time, and they are basically more of like environmental activists, which is of course a very good thing. But I believe that in with services, with products and so on, if you can do things simple for people and they can get a trustworthy feeling, and if they want to dig in, everything is around, but if not, then they will be fully aware of the companies doing that, are doing that for a greater purpose, not just to earn a lot of money and buy a Lamborghini. I think it makes sense for people. Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, given my experience in environmental management, I understand the nature of carbon load when you go into a manufacturing process, and it
Yeah.
actually takes a certain amount of carbon to be emitted to end up with product X, whatever that is. I'd love to talk about your business and your approach to goal steering as it relates to your thoughts when you're thinking, how do I reduce my environmental impact? How do I reduce these numbers? How do you do goal steering?
I think goal steering and I think I learned a lot those 6 years as a management consultant, and we basically developed a sort of methodology there, which we named as most important goals. So basically, the goal steering, which we also now copy paste into this company, is first of all getting people accountable.
Yeah.
That's if I would give one advice, that will be that. Make people feel accountable, and to be able to do that, you have to include them when you're setting the goals. Uh, so that's like rule number 2. Then I think that you should try to focus more on like leading KPIs than lagging KPIs, and really identify those critical behaviors that needs to happen more. And I think in a world of that moves faster and faster, and with a constant whirlwind of emailing, text, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it's super important that you narrow them down to like one or two. So what we are doing with our team, and we have a remote team. We have IT development in Vietnam. We have customer service in California. We have design in Stockholm. So we have sourcing in Hong Kong. So we are super remote. We are having one weekly meeting where each group during 15 minutes reflect on, did we accomplish what we promised each other last week, and then taking responsibility into one another. And we are just like 15 people working for this small company, but still the driving spirit for being responsible to your closest teammate is much stronger than being responsible for being responsible into me.
Yeah.
So we push it down like bottom up all the time, and limit the goals, limit the number of goals to, I would say, at least from my experience, maximum 2. And if people can't name them, then you have too many.
Yeah, it seems to me like
uh,
this idea of this if you have too many things that you're doing, you don't effectively do one of them very well at all, do you?
no, and I also think that the goal steering is not that thing you should focus on. That's something extra.
Hmm.
And I think you have to realize how the world is looking for people now. They get tons of emails. They have tons of meetings, mostly for good reasons, sometimes for, I don't know, just tradition. But the at least from the previous science we did into this topic was that you have perhaps at best 15%, realistically 5 to 10% of doing what's super important. The rest is just happening.
Yeah.
You just act and you're just reactive into things that happen. Someone calls, you're reactive, you're answering that one, and then you jump on that boat for 1 hour, and then you have hundreds of emails and you start replying to them, and then you get a text from your wife and you start replying to them. So it's not realistic to do goal steering like the full day. And if you do so, you have to, for those 5 to 10%, you have to ensure that you can influence it, that it's easy, understandable, that if you do that, it will affect something that's positive for the company. And also understand that you can't spend like 4 days at a, I don't know, somewhere clever and
Yep.
just identify those things, and then you use those for 1 year or 2 years or whatever period. We have a quite fast moving world right now, so I
Mm.
think it's realistic to do set a goal for a month, focus on that behavior, make that, fix it, take the next one, focus on that, move forward. So I think we need to understand that a lot of companies, due to this global world, are moving at a fast pace, and then the goal steering has to be fully agile into that, if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely makes sense. I wonder if we could talk just a little bit about the onboarding process, given the remote nature and the interconnected world we live in for your businesses. How is it that you
Yeah.
go around and effectively onboard people, selection and onboard? How do you know that you've got the people that are matching your mission and your passion for environmental focuses?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that you hear that. I think what differs this company compared with my other ones is that this is really value driven for me. This is super personal.
Yep.
So first of all, we send them a film. Basically, well, I'm talking and we show in my country house and
Yep.
the motives behind it. And then we ask them during like a Skype session or something similar, what are you thinking? What is your take on this? And see, is their motives, since everyone will answer that, of course, climate is important,
Yeah, it's like a
environment is
default, isn't it?
important, yeah. But really to understand their motives and how they have either, as I did, reflected on I haven't done enough, I need to do more, or when they are telling personal stories that we are doing those kind of things. After that, if that feels okay, and I think that's the most important step.
Yep.
It doesn't have anything. We don't look at the CV. So we're just talking about could you align into our culture and vision. Then we send out tests to them. So we measure their potential through GMA and through a personality test. And if that is well, and we see this is a good match of this is a high potential candidate, then we can look into what have those people done before. But if we can find people, we need people that has a great amount of conscientiousness. We need them to they need to be humble. They need to be, I don't know, open to find new solutions, since a lot of the things we are doing hasn't been done before. If we can find those people in the personality and they can also get their own touch of our vision and culture, I think what they have done before, or where they live, or what language they're native in, that's like, I don't know, not that
No.
important. And I'm wasn't from a very I don't know how to put it, but I wasn't born with money or anything. I was born in quite a mixed suburban of Stockholm
Yep.
at a time where it just has been it was a tragic war in Europe at 1990s in former Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of immigrants, like a wave of immigrants, and I was super glad. One good thing with that was that we were very good in sports, since we have a lot of great athletes that come from other countries. But I also learned not to be afraid for different cultures, and
Yeah.
I think that we have a little bit of a world now where we close our barriers and we get more and more tend to talk and communicate with people that are very much alike how we are. And then I think if we can have an opposite into that, so we can have people from different cultures with different genders coming from different type of backgrounds, eat different kind of food. I think that each and every one of us in our nimble company will open their minds into, yeah, it's not frightening to talk English to a guy or a girl in Vietnam. They have a funky accent, but so do I. I'm Swedish and I have a funky
And
accent.
I'm Australian and
So
I have a funky accent.
yeah, I think always do. We have our touch of English or a touch of Spanish, and but I think it's just good to understand, and I think the more we talk with people from different cultures and different religions and so on, we realize that there's nothing different about them.
No.
So
Yeah.
that's how we see this as strange, and I think it's ridiculous to say, okay, Stockholm is a great city. We have been having great startups here,
Yep.
like Spotify, Ericsson, King,
The list goes on and on,
and
doesn't
so
it?
on. Yeah, it goes on, and a lot of great music have come from here. But it's not realistic to say that the best talent is located here. It's not possible. Stockholm has 2 million people living here.
Yeah.
Of course, we have a much greater opportunity to find the people we really need to find if we have the world as a place.
Yeah, look, that's
It makes total sense.
I
And I think the tools now, we are running on Skype, you and me.
yeah.
I think the digital tools now are super efficient. So of course it's always good to meet and greet, but you can do you can do you can do things very good digital. Yeah, so I think we're trying to change it into a strength instead of something complicated.
Yeah, I was going to say that this idea of diversity is what came to my mind. Just that word is so powerful, but very, very undervalued, isn't it, in many respects?
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think so.
I'd just love to, I guess, again, segue into a good company now and talk a little bit about that.
Sure. My
Well,
favorite topic.
yeah, I'm fairly sure that it is. When I was reading it and I visited the website, I was absolutely fascinated. Could you share a little bit about what a good company does?
Sure. So basically, the foundation of it is to sell everyday product that we can promise are climate positive. So it comes into this vision, change from mindless consumption into conscious
Yep.
decisions. And coming back a little bit to that, there are a lot of environmental friendly products out there, of course, but I think there are two problems with them. One is that the price is too high, or that you have compromised on quality.
Yep.
So, and I think those goes hand in hand. If there shouldn't be a difference, you don't have to compromise between quality and sustainability. That at least from my perspective. So what we are trying to do is we now released a selection of like stone paper. I think it's a little bit in Australia as well with stone paper, but I think that's like the only area on earth where stone paper is there are like one or two companies there. But it's an amazing material. It's much better than pulp paper based material in terms of like paper. So we are developing notebooks, sketchbooks, pocket diaries, and so on. And we are replacing a quite bad material, which is pulp paper.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started to dig into this topic, I thought that pulp paper is nice. Recycled paper is also very nice. But then understanding that, okay, trees are quite important. They are our lungs.
Yep.
They are the only one that can help us reduce emission. So shall we keep them or shall we bring them down? So
Yeah.
I thought better keep them. So then we need to find a different material. And now we found this stone paper, which is just like leftovers from the construction industry,
Yep.
where we can make paper without adding any water, which is also another big threat for the civilization, I would say. No acids, no bleach, and so on. And this is the thing that we will try to do with all types of products. And we're looking into mobile cases. Could we do that without adding any plastic?
Yep.
Is that possible? I don't know yet. We're trying. Could we do that into toothbrushes? Could we do that into, I don't know, straws is not perhaps the best example. Could we do that into paint? Could we do that into, I don't know, different type of like everyday products? And then we use since we have now developed this amazing shipping material and protection material, which is also in stone paper and super eco-friendly, then we can use that for all our products. So we can have a good brand experience. We can get efficiency in terms of we can buy high volumes, but we can also reuse different type of like envelopes or cartoons or something to different kinds of product lines without having to compromise. And I think that's what a good company should stand for. Like thinking, and therefore we have invested in our designers. We have 3 designers just working full time into really understand how to make the best tomorrow products as we possibly can.
You, as soon as you started talking about a good company, your face lit up. I can just absolutely,
Yeah.
I can feel your passion come through the call today. It's just wonderful. It's just an amazing thing that you're doing. And I keep thinking to myself, it's not about having a lack of resources. It's about being resourceful with what we have, isn't it?
Yeah, perfectly. I perfectly agree. And I think that we as humans, we need to be able to buy good things. It's not a thing to go into, at least in the Nordics, there's a saying of being like a asket, where you just sell everything and it's almost like a monk.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't feel that people want to live that way. It's not realistic. I love the good things of life. I like to drink a glass of wine. I like to eat good food, but we need to do it in a more responsible way. And I think the same with consumption. And consumption is the driving force of society. So me as an entrepreneur and my team, we are struggling into that path.
Yeah, look, and as I could literally speak with you for hours, it's just been such a light in my day. Thank you very much for spending some time with me on the My Future
Yeah,
Business show
thank you
today.
very much. Yeah, thank you very much. It was a great chat with you.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.